on, man. What happened?
What happened? That little mouse, he got the devil in him. That's just what he got. I tried everything. Traps, bomb, and sticky paper. A 357 Magnum. Nothing worked. When I left your house, he was sitting on top of your refrigerator eating a cheese sandwich laughing at me.
What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to The Fifth Flow, where I go ahead and actually take a look at Martin episodes from the 90s. You know, that show that we just absolutely love, especially if you're on this channel right now. I know you love it just like I do. Grew up there, and I love taking an introspective, retrospective look at this show. Now, I'll go ahead and actually break it down for you. I'm going to go ahead and actually break down the synopsis, what was happening in the world during that time, trivia, guest stars that happened on there, various different things that you might not have noticed. My hope is that you will go ahead and actually take a look at that same episode that I'm reviewing, and you might look at it with a different set of eyes. Today, I'm going to go ahead and actually review 3 Men and a Mouse. Now, this episode premiered November 12th, 1992, has a runtime of 23 minutes, and it had a ratings pool of 17.7 million viewers. This was directed by Tony Singletary and written by David Wyatt. The synopsis goes like this. Martin's desperate to rid his house of a mouse, so Gina will return. But his eccentric exterminator fails to do the job. So you got all kinds of different things going on here, from a mouse to Gina being involved to an eccentric exterminator that definitely begs for funniness. So sit back while I go and actually break this down for you, and we're going to have a good time with this. Now, 3 Men and a Mouse, when you look at it as a production, it actually premiered, like I said, on November 12, 1992, and it was the 12th episode in the first season, meant to premiere as the 10th episode of that season. Not sure why it was filmed out of sorts, but that's it. It is what it is. So the only cast member that's actually different on here, outside of our usual cast of Martin, we have Gina, we have Tommy, we have Cole, we have Stan. We are going to be missing Pam. We're going to be missing Sean from our normal cast members. But that's what we have. But the guest star in here is Little Richard as the Exterminator. You don't know who Little Richard is? Let me break him down for you. Little Richard was a singer-songwriter and a musician who was one of the pioneers of rock and roll. Having a stage presence of a flamboyant, charismatic artist, he paved the way for many groundbreaking acts like James Brown, Michael Jackson, Prince, and others. And he also inspired a lot of people outside of his genre, including the Beatles, David Bowie, and Rod Stewart. In a career that was spanning 7 decades, he had plenty of hits, but the absolute one that is synonymous with his name is his hit Tutti Frutti, that released as a single in 1955, and it is well known all over the world. It solidified his crossover status into stardom. So, well-known superstar. Unfortunately, Little Richard died in 2020 at the age of 87 from bone cancer, so R.I.P. Little Richard, aka the Exterminator in this episode. So now that we actually kind of have the lay of the land and everything where it's going, let's take a look at this particular episode. Now, the good thing about this episode and that we actually have coming back is we have the monologue of Martin coming back to give us his little story or breakdown or what have you. And again, this is actually a monologue that actually relates to subject matter in this particular episode, where Martin is talking about him, his girlfriend and him moving in together and all that kind of stuff, and him pontificating on what that actually means. And he actually makes some good points, and of course a lot of things that, you know, guys are going to actually think about, but then maybe some things that we don't think about. So let's listen to what he has to say, and then we jump into the episode.
A lady wants to move in with me. No. Hell no. See, if she moves in with me, she's gonna be there my every waking moment. If I wanna watch the game, she's gonna be in my face. If I wanna talk on the phone, she's gonna be in my ear. If I wanna have sex, she's gonna be in my... Wait, I gotta think about this.
So we start this episode off in Martin's apartment, more specifically in the bedroom in the dead of night, where Gina wakes up and she actually hears a little bit of something going on outside the bedroom, and Martin's fast asleep, And she wants him, just like all women do, for us to go ahead and actually go take a look at it. Well, specifically for Martin to go take a look at it, right? And of course, he's like, man, I don't care what's going on there. I'm dead asleep. No, please go out there and take a look. So we have the back and forth of, partner in bed, say, go look, the other one doesn't want to, whatever. He finally begrudgingly gets up like a little petulant child and goes out there, takes a look, and comes rushing back to bed. She asks what it is, and he says, it's just nothing but a mouse. A mouse freaks her out instantly. He should have known. I know he was asleep, so he probably didn't know that was going to click. But yeah, you can't tell a woman that there's a mouse loose in the house and think that she's going to be able to sleep. And of course, Gina does not. And she is like, I can't sleep, and that ain't happening. Martin's trying to go ahead and actually get her to calm down. Let me just handle it, in the daytime, whatever. She's like, nope, can't do it, or whatever. And ultimately, he's just like, well, do you just want to go ahead and actually go to your apartment? She's like, yeah, sure. He's like, all right, cool. Then we can go. But you made me wake up in the middle of the night to go ahead and actually do this. You got to expect something in return on that. I'm just saying. And you know what? I can't blame him.
No sleep there either. I'm telling you, because I'm up now. I'm driving clear across town at 2 in the morning. When we get there, oh, it's on.
But there we have the setup for the premise of this particular episode. We get into it really good, really tight writing, funny, and I like it. So before we go into the next scene, let's take a listen to the global news that was going on during this episode's premiere. Hey, future me here in the editing process. I actually forgot to mention this 1991 reverse dunk MJ poster that was actually hanging on the back of, or on one of the walls for Martin's bedroom. It's actually just right behind Gina here, and I wanted you to go ahead and actually kind of take a look at it, because if you are a person that is interested in recreating any of these types of paraphernalia or things that Martin had, this is actually a very interesting poster to have, and it also exemplifies how Martin was feeling about Jordan back in the day. I think this one, he had the Jordan 4s on, and for you sneakerheads, I'm sure you guys are all about that life. But wanted to point this out for those that really like the Jordan aspects of things. And now, your global headlines for the week of November 6th through November 12th, 1992. Mass protests in Germany, where over 300,000 people rallied in Berlin to protest against neo-Nazi violence and xenophobia. The event made global headlines when protesters threw stones and eggs at German President Weizsäcker during his speech. In other news, European Union progress, where European leaders continue negotiations regarding the implementation of the Maastricht Treaty amidst domestic political challenges in the UK and France. Elsewhere, activists in El Salvador petitioned for the formal legalization of Farabundo Martini National Liberation Front, or FMLN, as a political party following the end of the Civil War. And lastly, there was a historic church vote. In a landmark decision, the Church of England voted to allow the ordination of women as priests. The move was hailed as a second reformation by supporters and led to threats of a schism by traditionalists. So that's what we have in global news. And now, back to your Martin breakdown. Welcome back. So now, the next scene we have is at the station, and it's Martin in the studio, and Stan comes on in, and they engage in a conversation. It seems that Martin has already told Stan about his mouse problem, and Stan actually says, hey, get you with my exterminator. He's actually downstairs taking care of some stuff, which actually means that they got rodents or some type of pests up in the studio, in the basement, or whatever. So you already know it's already some craziness going on. But then again, this is a Stan place, so what should we expect, right? So then Stan goes and actually engages with Martin on, having a mouse. It's not that big of a deal, whatever. Matter of fact, a mouse actually helped him scam his way into getting the money that he has here now. So if you have a trivia question on somebody asks you, how did Stan acquire the money to buy or get money or what have you, it was because he went in and actually gathered rats in his neighborhood when he was younger, cut off the tails, and sell them to the neighborhood children as chihuahuas. That's how he started making his money. Stan is crazy. Stan is cold. There's something wrong about that man, right? So, and we go ahead and actually see the most Martin Stan-esque exchange in this series. I kid you not. I love this exchange and what was actually said, because it Mwah. It tells you exactly what they think of each other right here.
You know what, Stan? You amaze me, man. Every time I think you can't get any lower, you take me to the curb.
Well, let me take you to the gutter.
And I can't help but say that that is hilarious. Now Stan exits the room, and in comes his exterminator. In the exterminator, we go and actually hear the applause from the studio audience because we have the legendary Little Richard coming in as Richard the Exterminator. Actually has a little Richard thing on name tag on his suit, and he comes in, and that suit is just ridiculous, right? Got the little deals on there, got the little headband, just no kind of way that you have that as an exterminator, right? But he comes in asking for Marty Payne. Little Richard is being so Little Richard playing this role. So Martin just explains to that, yes, I have mouse at my house on there. Can you go ahead and actually get rid of them? You know, what's your qualifications as an exterminator? Little Richard puts on a diatribe to Martin, letting him know about his slight as an exterminator, that he was the first one to do a lot of different things, and he never got the credit that he did as an exterminator.
Because I'm the one that started this business. I'm the king. I'm the legend. And I am the founder. Have you ever heard of rain? I invented it. Of course, I don't get no credit for it, though. They gave it to that little exterminator from the South. You think anybody gave me an award for that? They didn't give me nothing. They never gave me nothing.
And it's obviously a veiled allusion to the credit that Little Richard didn't get as a musical artist in rock and roll, of being the first to do a lot of various different things, getting the credit for things, and he didn't until he got older, really. He was shunned in America and things like that. So the Little Richard Exterminator is kind of, you know, an allusion to him as an artist, and it's absolutely hilarious because he's just all in to who he is and all that kind of stuff. But he says, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and actually take your mouse problem, and I'll take the job, and I'll get rid of your mouse. I want y'all to take a look also, though, at the back of Little Richard's fit right here. You take a look at that. I think it's funny. LNR Exterminator and had a little mouse. I just think that it's absolutely hilarious, but I love it. Scene is complete. We have Little Richard in here. He's off to go ahead and actually help Martin out with his mouse problem. Love it. So that's the end of that scene. Now, let's go ahead and actually take a look at the domestic headline news during the time of this premiere before we get to the next scene. And now, your domestic news. Thousands gathered in Washington, D.C. to mark the 10th anniversary of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial on Veterans Day in 1992. In other news, NASA continued preparations for the upcoming STS-53 mission, while data from the Mars Observer, launched earlier in 1992, was monitored as it cruised towards the Red Planet. So those are the domestic headlines for the week of November 6th through November 12th, 1992. Now, back to your Martin breakdown. Welcome back. So with the next scene, we are now at Gina's apartment, and Gina and Martin have actually been there for like a day or two. Like, he's actually stayed with Gina for a little bit of time, and Gina actually starts to clown Martin for actually even having a rat or mouse, depending upon who you're believing is, having that into his place, right? And so it kind of assumes that keeps a dirty place, things like that. And we know he's no dirtier than like the average, person or whatever. But Gina clowning him because she's got the bougie little setup or whatever. And it's funny, right? Boyfriend, girlfriend going actually clowning on each other. But then Gina, to go ahead and actually, love Martin on down, says, hey, I'll go ahead and actually play you a song or whatnot to do like that. He actually says, hey, you could put this on your album, which those of us in the know that Tisha was actually working on an album during this time, so that was actually funny. But she actually starts playing, and she plays two different songs. She plays Three Blind Mice, making fun of Martin, and he's like, oh, like whatever. She's like, no, for real, I'm just playing. And then she plays Ben, and Ben absolutely cracks anybody up who actually sees it, because Ben is a Michael Jackson song, for those of you that don't know, and it was actually about a boy who actually befriends a mouse or a rat, whatever you want to call them, and it's actually based off of like a horror film. So I would encourage you to go ahead and actually take a look at Spotify of looking at Ben, and then take a look at the movie and Google that and things like that to go ahead and actually find it, because there's actually one to go ahead and actually take a look at. But Gina making fun of Martin goes and actually plays that and whatnot, and lo and behold, we hear a knock at the door. Richard the Exterminator is there, letting Marty Payne know that he is done. He don't want to do this job no more. That mouse is crazy. And he tried everything to catch her. He tried traps, he tried all kinds of different things. He said even tried a Magnum 357. He said it didn't work. He said, I am retiring. I am getting out the business. And Martin says, well, what am I supposed to go and actually do? And Little Richard actually says,
listen, save yourself. Move. and run for the border.
Well, first of all, you need to go ahead and actually head for the border, which is funny because at that particular time, Little Richard was actually involved in a commercial ad for Taco Bell. And the moniker of that was make a run for the border, meaning run to go and actually get this Mexican food. And I looked at the commercials again, refresh my memory. 59 cents for a plain taco. 79 cents for Supreme. 99 cents for, you know what? I'm going to get worked up. Just about 30 years ago, we had so many cheaper prices. But I digress. That's what Little Richard was talking about during that time or what have you. And he's saying like, look, I'm going to actually get out this extermination business. Let me go. I'm going to change careers and whatnot. Matter of fact, he's looking at, ooh, Gina's got a piano there. Says, hey, maybe I could go and actually try this. She's like, do you mind? She's like, sure, go ahead. And obviously from him never having played the piano before, gets on down and he starts playing Tutti Frutti. And of course, there's a studio audience there, so they are getting into it of Little Richard performing this, a little snippet of his most famous song there, Martin and Gina dance in the background and whatnot. As he finishes up, Gina says, oh, that was nice. And he's like, nice? And that was great. He was like, nobody ever gives me credit for anything. And then he goes ahead and actually leaves. And then Martin and Gina are now left with Martin still having the mouse problem. And it's like, what am I going to do? What's going to go and actually happen here? And Gina says like, hey, you don't really even have to, you've been staying here a couple of days. It was actually kind of nice. Maybe you don't ever have to go back. Maybe you can stay here. We can, she's kind of hinting at us staying together. He was like, you know what? Let me go. I'm going to go take care of that mouse. Boom. Let me get up out of there. And let's just be real. Most of us guys would do the exact same thing, especially when you're young, when you're in like your mid 20s, maybe your late 20s, when you're just not quite ready. You love her, but you're not quite there. I'm still gonna maintain my place. So he's like, I got to get back there and do something about that. And so that's where the scene ends of Martin determined to go back and get that mouse out. Now let's take a look at the movie and music that was happening during the premiere of this episode before we get to the next scene. And now for your MTV movie and music breakdown, November 6th through November 12th, 1992. First, let's take a look at the movies. Number 5, we have Jennifer 8. Number 4, The Mighty Ducks. Number 3, A River Runs Through It. Number 2, Under Siege. And premiering at number 1, Passenger 57 with Wesley Snipes. And now for the top 5 songs from that same week. Number 5, Real Love by Mary J. Blige. Number 4, Sometimes Love Just Ain't Enough, Patti Smith and Don Henley. Number 3, How Do You Talk to an Angel, The Heights. Number 2, I'd Die Without You, PM Dawn. And continuing its reign at number 1, End of the Road by Boyz II Men. And that's what we have for MTV Culture News. Now, back to your Martin breakdown. Welcome back. So now we got Tommy and Cole waiting outside of Martin's place because he said like, hey, I need my boys there. He wants to go and actually talk to them. And they're going to go and actually help him get rid of this mouse. And he actually wants to go and actually have a discussion with them as well. But what's actually significant is if you take a look here, right next to Tommy and Cole being getting let into Martin's apartment while they're waiting for him. Look at this sign that's right next to Cole here. Kitten that's missing and all this kind of stuff on there. That might come in significant towards the end of this episode. Of course it will. I wouldn't allude to it otherwise. So while they're waiting, we actually see Shanae come on down the hall and asking why aren't Tommy and Cole busting up in his place like they normally do, which is actually true. Like they've been up in his place, 2 or 3 times since the first episode or what have you. But, Tommy's like, hey, you can't really tell her what's going on there because it's none of her business. Cole is kind of hinting that he's going to go and actually tell her. He ends up letting it slip that Martin has a mouse in his house. And Shanae is like, oh, freaking out. I didn't know that Martin was like that, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Some goofiness happens with Tommy and Shanae or whatever. And then we see Martin go and actually pull up and he's like, hey, y'all need to help me get rid of this mouse because if I don't, Gina really wants me to go ahead and actually move in with her. So they go ahead and actually come on in and kind of talk about that. Like, oh, man, you really ready to move in, man. Well, let's go ahead and actually help you get rid of this mouse. So we gotta have the dichotomy of them trying to find this mouse to go and actually get rid of it, but then also they're having the discussion about, Gina and Martin living together and things like that. So first they're trying to draw the mouse out, things like that. Doesn't happen. So then they go and actually decide, okay, well, we need to prepare a trap, right? To get the trap on there so that we can go ahead and actually capture him and whatnot. Well, first they actually go and actually set a trap with cheese on it. They go and then they're talking a little bit about Martin and Gina's relationship or what have you. They hear the traps snap, and rat's not caught, mouse is not caught. Took the cheese, bug out on there. So now they all go into the kitchen like, you need to go and actually have some peanut butter stickiness on the trap or whatever, right? So they go looking for it. They're all looking for it in the kitchen, and then boom, when they turn around, there's the mouse right there on the table, and he's right there. So they're like, okay, well, we just need to go and actually capture him. They all try to jump, boom, they miss him. Mouse runs out of there, blah. They can't find him. He's still in the apartment, whatever. So, and the hilarity ensues of like trying to find where the mouse went and anything like this. Come to find out, the mouse, somehow, some way, because Cole fell to the floor, they all fell all over, what have you. And now the mouse is in Cole's back pocket. So, of course, Martin goes and actually helps Cole to get that mouse out of there. We go and actually do the kick. Mouse is out, and they can't find the mouse again. So, again, they're looking around for it, what have you. Then we get a little bit more talk about the relationship and all that kind of good stuff. And then we get into, and then we finally have the mouse is actually located in Cole's hat. It's a big old hat that he has, and gets inside of there. And Cole puts on the hat because he is tired of like getting dogged out by Tommy and Martin and stuff. So he get ready to leave, but hat is on, mouse is up in there, and you can kind of see the motion that's going on or whatever. So they end up tackling Cole on the couch, beating him, hitting the hat, hitting him, all this kind of stuff. They finally got the mouse. They finally got him. They got it hemmed up in there. And Martin starts talking about all the different things that he's going to go and actually do to this mouse, right?
You'll thank us for this later, all right? Give me your hat.
No.
Yeah, give me your hat.
Right? And just acting like it's a terrorist or whatever. And so you get all this kind of back and forth and all this kind of stuff. And so you would think that this is going to happen. And then Tommy, with his benevolent type of self, he has the epiphany of, this is one of God's creatures. We can't really harm him like that. Martin's like, I don't care. He got to go, and I'm willing to go ahead and actually kill him, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He's like, no, I got to do it. And even Cole comes around, because even Cole actually had goggles, because he said, like, hey, I don't want the mouse coming from my eyes. That's where they come from, my eyes. Matter of fact, he even said that at the very beginning. They were like, how do you even know that they come for your eyes? And he says this. So absolutely crazy, right? But Tommy has now convinced Martin that, look, we don't need to kill the mouse. Let's just set him on free, and it's going to be okay. So reluctantly, Tommy says, all right, or reluctantly, Martin says, all right, fine, get him out of my house. But if I see him again, he comes in my apartment again, I'll kill him. Fair enough. So Tommy goes ahead and actually opens the door, apartment door, lets him free. Now, personally for me, you're not letting him loose back in the same apartment complex. If you want to take him all the way outside and let him outside, cool. But not still in the apartment building. That's nasty. What is wrong with you, Tommy? Like, whatever. But unfortunately, remember we had the sign that had the lost kittens earlier? Yeah, that mouse was not long for this world.
Be free.
Yeah, he did get free. So, hey, there you are. But that's where we're at, where we have finally solved the mouse problem, and we are done with the entire problem. We now transition to the last scene of the episode, where we are now later in Martin's bedroom, later at night. He kind of messing with Gina a little bit, making noise. She thinks his mouse is back. It's like, no, it's him going actually doing that. And then she's like, okay, well, since you woke me up, let's talk about what you ran out before of talking about, possibly moving in together, creating that life together. And all of a sudden, Martin is very much like a petulant child again. I'm going to sleep. Nope, sorry, can't hear you. I'm going to sleep.
Together. Martin. Martin, get off me.
And that's where the episode ends, in effect, as far as the events going on, where Martin is just like, "Yep, not gonna go and actually do that." And I think we can all agree that a lot of guys have that fear and things of that nature. And we're done. The last little credit scene on there, we actually have a scene of Little Richard expanded of when he was there playing the piano, playing Tutti Frutti in front of the crowd, playing the entire song with the actors that were there, the main actors that were on set, and they're dancing with him. And it was just a great homage of letting a legend go and actually entertain a crowd and everybody getting to see him. A lot of people that would never have gotten to see him perform or whatever. And that was awesome. And that was fun. It was the first post-credit scene that aired on Martin. So I think that was really awesome. But that's it. That's the entire episode of Three Men and a Mouse. So what did I think about the episode? I thought that this is actually one of the better ones for the season. Matter of fact, as I'm starting to pull it, because I hadn't seen this in a while, I've seen this one a few different times, right? Because you can't not see Little Richard episode and not know about it. But it was a little bit funnier than I thought it was. Having everything from the original tantrum that Martin throws of wanting to sleep and Gina like, no, get up and like that, and that whole interaction that couples have, Stan offering assistance, the introduction of Little Richard and being written into the storyline, and him using his veiled slights as an entertainer, what have you. I love that way they did that character for him. The aspect of drawing in Gina and Martin now, having been together for a while, and they're still cracking on each other, still loving each other, things like that, but now it's starting to get serious, and you see that kind of evolving through the season. I think that was really great how they did that. Little Richard going and actually having an excuse to be like, okay, I'm done, I'm over with it. And then the Tommy and Cole aspect of just them being ridiculous, comedy team of those three getting together, try and capture this mouse, how they're watching out for their boy. You had another appearance by Shanae on there, which was humorous in its nature. They round back the episode at the very end to still calling back to the aspect of Gina wanting to talk about that whole relationship thing. That's a very real thing, right? Women want to do that. So I think that was good writing of kind of closing the loop on that. And the fact that we got a coherent story, wrapped up everything, had a guest star in there. This was well written. I think it was well paced, had, a lot of chuckles and a couple of big laughs for me, and Little Richard was a highlight. So this actually rates higher than I probably would have before I started down the journey again of watching all these episodes. So I'm going to say that this is, above a solid type of episode. I think probably this is going to be in my top half of, now I won't say top half, I would say like top third of season one once I go back and evaluate everything. But yeah, solid episode, loved it. Yeah, and that's it. So what do you think? Tell me below, your thoughts about this particular episode. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What did you like about, did you like the Little Richard stuff? Did you think it off-putting? The Stan stuff was cracking me up as far as like how he got his empire or whatnot, as he goes and actually claims it. And then also, what did you think about the whole aspect of Martin and Gina's aspects of like how they wanted to go and actually interact with each other, what they were thinking? Because I think that was very significant and whatnot. It was a solid episode, loved it. But that's the end of everything on there. Do me a favor, click like, share, subscribe if you liked this at all. I'm going to continue to go about reviewing the Martin episodes. And then my goal is, if everybody really is liking Martin reviews, I will try to expand the channel if I get time and this becomes rewarding enough on there to do the full Thursday night lineup. Because as you know, we had Martin, then we got Living Single, and we also had New York Undercover. So all that stuff would be great. But until the next time, you know what you got to do. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. Marty Marr does.
I've been waiting to say this all year, and I'm gonna say it. And this is a good time. Get the stepping. Now, don't you feel tough?
Yeah.
Don't you feel strong?
Yeah.
Don't you feel like going home?
Sure.
Then get the hell out of my apartment and take
Back up a taste? Just a taste. Just give me some room.
Hey.
Okay, the door's gonna slam about now.